Hi. Okay, so I am pushing myself to share, even when it might feel a little bit uncomfy. So, as I was writing this down and kind of preparing what I wanted to speak on with this, um, the analogy came to mind of kombucha. So I brew kombucha, and I have for several years. I got like the SCOBY baby from my mom. And if anybody locally here in Chicago wants to start a kombucha brewing journey, I have plenty of the SCOBY that I'm happy to share. But the thought that came through was this idea of like brewing kombucha. I've always just done like the regular tea-based brew. I had never experimented with adding fruit or like chia seeds up until recently. I got super courageous and I added chia seeds and pineapple juice, and it's been a journey. I love the taste, the experience. It's totally different, but it also ferments like so much quicker. And so I've had a couple of exciting near misses of almost exploding my bottles, because the pressure builds up so much, and when you go to release it, if you don't like untwist the lid quickly enough, it will come off by itself, and stuff will come out. So anyways, this just brought to mind like this notion of like sharing information and letting thoughts and ideas and just things like flow more like fluidly and smoothly through us. And so it occurred to me that I can be kind of like the kombucha. And if I experience the ability to create and share like regularly, naturally, I feel more in flow. But if I run into like blockages or self-doubts on like what I'm meant to share and how I'm meant to share it, whether that's like showing up online or even like in person real life connections, sometimes I can just like stall out and build a lot of like pressure internally, and kind of just get into these like overthinking loops rather than sharing more freely, seeing how someone responds to that and going through it. And so the longer that I end up like spinning my wheels individually, the more difficult it can sometimes feel to then open up and let someone in to see like all of the stuff that my brain has been doing with the topic. So yeah, kind of like the kombucha, that like I feel like if you're aerating and like burping it regularly, like you're not having so much build up. And so I'm kind of embarking on this quest to kind of not test myself, but like push myself to share more openly and outwardly, not to secure external validation for doing so, but rather like to practice and like build this skill and like build up this muscle that feels at times kind of weak, like my expression and like, you know, sharing through my throat like sometimes like can feel blocked, particularly if I've had something like on my heart or on my mind for a while, and for whatever reason I haven't given it space, I haven't given it oxygen. It's just kind of like building internally. So yeah, this kind of reminded me of like the throat chakra, which I may have mentioned, and that just kind of becoming blocked, which reminds me of this book that I read when I was down in Florida. Kind of a story for a different day, but I ended up kidnapping this book from this coffee shop because it was so good and I needed to finish it. It has been returned, and it was communicated that I was borrowing it, but I ought to just like get my own copy. It's called The Anatomy of the Spirit, and the author kind of goes through, I think the author is actually from Chicago, I want to say, but she goes through like the Hindu chakras, the Christian sacraments and the Kabbalah tree of life. So these major religions and their different like ideologies and symbologies. So it's a really, really great book, really rich insights. But anyways, wanted to just drop that nugget. Relatedly, what came to mind when I was preparing to speak on this was this idea of like not forsaking the fellowship. So not kind of going into these isolated silos. Hebrews 10:25 says, let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. And a different translation mentions specifically not forsaking fellowship. And so I feel that authentic expression and connection feel increasingly important in my life. And I have, in some ways, become and felt isolated at times during my current life season. I've been navigating like this chronic pain and trying to go deeper into understanding where it's coming from and trying to heal it. And then I'm also oscillating between like this contract freelance work and more creative efforts like writing. And so I'm really trying to feel into like what is authentic and true in terms of workflow and life rhythms, but then within that, where does connection with others fit? As someone who lives alone, there are a lot of like benefits and like quiet and peace associated with that, and it's also difficult at times to have friends in other neighborhoods that it can be kind of a task to organize time with. And yeah, I think I have more to share in a different video on this notion of like community feeling like it comes more easily. But for this video, I want to focus on how, like in some relationships and even sharing online, I can sometimes feel myself auditing how I feel against what other people might expect or want from me. And so this is like an active practice of expressing more authentically and not like changing how I'm sharing based on what someone might expect, or even not sharing because it doesn't feel ready or perfect. So yeah, I just wanted to share this kind of idea of working to like open my channel so I don't feel blocked, speaking freely, and recognizing it's better to cause bubbles, if we take the fermentation analogy, rather than have the pressure, the accumulation of pressure that could build into an explosion. And yeah, as I was reflecting more on this, I think I had the realization that I learned pretty early in life that my truth and my voice weren't always comfortable or convenient for other people. And so I'm therefore kind of like sitting in these like downstream impacts of that and how that has shaped my voice and how I share. So I'm actively kind of stepping in to reprogram this, to play with this, to make this light and accessible and something I'm freely able to do. And so I just wanted to end with a couple like affirmations that felt relevant. And so I wrote, I am clear, I am kind, I am true, my voice is valuable, I am valuable, my voice is respected, I am respected, my voice is believed, I am believed, and my voice is loved, I am loved. So that's all I have for this one.